Hi, my name is Kevin McDonald, and I'm declaring my independence. Independence from what? Why, negative thoughts and energy, of course. Chief among them, hate, division, and fear. You see, I know that we're all one, and together we can solve any problem, save our planet and each other. Please, join me as we come together as one and choose a better way to be. So now, let's begin with my independence report.
And welcome everybody to my Independence Report. I am so lucky again, and today's an important day in the life of Tommi Tikka, and he's with us today, and he is from Finland. I believe
that's right. That's right.
He's from Finland. He is a wonderful singer, songwriter, producer, writer, and does all the things and wears all the hats and produces some really, really cool music. I love what you do, and we're going to play some of it during this hour, and we're just going to have a really good time because he is a great guy, and he's got to set the scenario up for you. It's morning here where I am, and where he is, it's 9 o'clock at night. He is got the kids downstairs having pizza and stuff, and he snuck up here to take a couple of minutes with us, and then he's going to go watch a horror movie with the older kids when the younger kids go to bed. That sounds to me like a classic Saturday night.
It is. It's wonderful. You know, one of the greatest things about having a lot of kids is that you know, the oldest ones when they get to, I don't know, 16 or 18, you know, just kind of, their kids can never be friends, but they kind of become friends in the sense that you can watch those horror movies while at the same time there's a 4-year-old downstairs that says that, you know, I need dada. you know, and sort of I love all the kids go through different phases, and every age that they hit is always going to be special somehow, some way. And right now I just, you know, have all of it. It's rough, you know, it's having 6 kids, but yeah, right, all boys too. They fight like cats and dogs, man. And but you know, it's great because you get the best of all worlds right now, all the different ages that are going. The 18-year-old, that's a bit of a challenge. You know, he comes home at 1 o'clock in the morning and reeks of perfume, you know, and of course, you know.
Well, look on the bright side. It's not an 18-year-old girl, because you'd be out front with a shotgun.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, yeah. Wouldn't that be something else? Yeah. I've often wondered about that. You know, I just, all the guys out there who've got daughters, you know, man, it's got to be tough, because you know exactly what teenage boys are like, because you were a teenage boy at some point. You know, yeah. I mean, and you know, sometimes I really feel, you know, feel for those guys, because, you know, it's, you kind of forget that they're somebody's daughters, you know, which, you know, I think that if you have a daughter, I don't know if you've got a daughter, but yeah, I mean, if you have a daughter, then I think that you probably feel a bit differently about, well, yeah, everything, you know.
Oh, you do, and you want to put the fright of heaven and hell in the boys that come visit your daughter.
Oh
yeah, sure, oh yeah, that they're, because you know what they're thinking, and they know you know what they're thinking, because you thought it when you were a kid. And
yeah, exactly. I remember being in my early 20s, and one of my professors at college, I was sort of a little bit, you know, absent-minded, thinking about something. So he walks up to me and says that, "Tom, what are you thinking?" You know, because I wasn't paying attention. That was a small group. And then before I, you know, answered, or I got a chance to answer because it took a while, he said that, "How old are you?" And I'm like, "I'm 23. And then he's like, "Oh my God, I know exactly what you're thinking. Stop it right now. Stop it." You know, not in my class, you know. And so, but yeah, I mean, it's too much information round about this time, but yeah.
Well, you know, it's interesting because you're going to watch a movie with the older boys. It's going to probably be a horror slash slasher film, and there's going to be lots of screaming and blood and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I have an associate. She's got a 3-year-old girl, and she watched The Wizard of Oz for the first
But
time.
there you go. I don't even know what they have planned. Every once in a while, I mean, I'm okay with the slasher, whatever. But we just they had this very psychological horror movie, and so we watched it. It was super scary. And then my 4-year-old woke up in the middle of the night, and he was hysterical. He obviously he didn't watch the movie, but I watched the movie, and so he's pointing to the corner. There's a man there. I'm like, there's no guy. Go to bed. Dad's here, right? But he keeps pointing to the corner, screaming, "There's a man! Tell him to go away!" Right? And it's just like 4 a.m. Right?
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, get him to calm down. Falls asleep, and then after I had watched that movie, of course, I start looking into the corner, wondering if there really is a man. It took me a good while, yeah, because it was so, like it was as if I was part of a horror movie. It was that authentic. And that's kind of scary. Somebody pointing like, maybe 5-6 times screaming. And so I'm like looking into the corner. I'm thinking like, Jesus Christ, I just, should I do something,
It makes the back of your hair than the back of your head.
Oh, yeah, exactly that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really cool that you have 6 kids. Did you plan to have 6 kids, or this is just kind of
no. This was one of those, man makes plans and God laughs. I mean, I mean, it's wonderful, but at the same time, laborious. I mean, you can just imagine you got six kids, and if everybody asks something of you every 10 minutes, I mean, that's like, that gives you a good idea of a regular hour of my life on a Saturday, any given Saturday.
So when do you have time to sit down and to write music? Because you're busy raising 6 boys, they're always wanting to do something.
Oh yeah, and I'll the answer to that is that I've always just needed 5 hours of sleep every night, so I don't sleep more than 5 hours, and I don't know why. Ever since I was in my 16, 17, I noticed that I can fully function with that. And so after the kids have gone to bed, after my wife's gone to bed, I come upstairs to my home studio, and one night I might lay down the basic track, and then a couple of days after that at night I'll sing sing and maybe play a little bit of guitar, and it usually takes about a week. Then I've got a track ready.
Wow.
Piecemeal, working piecemeal like that.
Exactly. But it's amazing to me that you keep all of that in your head and you keep it all straight.
Yeah, it's one of the things. I've been doing this for such a long time that it's already, I kind of played it. So when I actually pick up the guitar, I just play it. I don't need numerous takes. It's just, it's there. I've already edited. I've edited everything. I edit everything in my head beforehand. And so I usually sing a couple of times, and then that's enough. When you've done something your entire life, there are people who like countless takes and just sort of mess around with it, and I do too, but I just kind of do it silently in my head before I turn the microphone on, and
well, no, I was just going to say, let's talk about your number one. That's got to be the number one YouTube or iTunes single, which is called "Doormat." That has to make you feel good that you reached number one, and it happened pretty quickly.
Yeah. I mean, it's wonderful. I feel super excited. Absolutely stoked. It is the only way to describe that.
Does it feel like it validates the type of work that you do?
I suppose, yeah, it does. Yeah, it's I don't. People often ask if you know, because if you only write for the charts or radio, then you're bound to get very disappointed very soon. It's just the way it is. And obviously, I've experienced that long time ago as well. But I mean, if you get a number one or even get into top 10, I think then it means that you're doing something right. Because really, people have different goals. I've often gone on record to say that the reason why I do this is just that I find an audience, a bunch of people who nod their heads to what I'm doing, and that's why I keep making music. That's why I've always done it. That's the reason. And so for me, I don't think of it as like number one and let's get the champagne out. I think of it that I've managed to entertain, which is it just means I've done my job properly. And and so yeah, it feels wonderful.
Well, and it's now that comes on Hearts on Fire almost got to number one, didn't it?
Yeah, it got to number two.
That's damn close to number one in my book.
Yeah. It's right, exactly. That's what I said to Michael. That my label head. That too bad I wanted to get to number one with that. And he said that, well, that's about the only thing that's better than number two. And so, so yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just one of those things that I think you become a bit competitive and silly about looking, staring at the charts as to where you are. But really, like I said, those are numbers, but yet at the same time, I think I'd like to think that, or not I'd like to think I think that if I have an audience, it inspires me to, if I know there's an audience out there who are sort of who like what I'm doing and they're waiting for me to release something new, it just keeps me going, keeps me working. It's inspiring. And so I think that all of that is important through or because of that reason.
And by the way, I want to take a moment to just thank Michael Stover for putting us together. He is MTS Management and Records, and so he's got a bunch of folks that work with him. He works incredibly hard, and he is working to make sure that you guys get to number one. And so, what does when you get to number one on iTunes? What does that mean exactly? How many downloads or plays? Is that what that means?
Yeah, I mean it just means that a big group of people have downloaded your song and a large group of people have listened to it. And then in the case of Doormat, it was actually rather cool because it stayed in top 40 for about a week, which means that none of the other ones have really done that, and it just really it stayed there for 6 days, which is in my world was brilliant.
In the music world these days, things come and go so fast that years ago there was a guy. It was the guy who wrote I think it was Crosby, Stills and Nash, but maybe Stephen Stills or something. My House, that song. And he said
Graham Nash, yeah, it's one of my favorite ones. Yeah,
and he said at one point that song bought him a house and bought him a second house and will keep him in money for the rest of his life. But those days are gone, aren't they?
Yeah, they're gone. I'm fortunate that way because I got to experience the tail end of it. When Carmen Gray, my first group who recorded for Sony and Warner, when we were putting out records, it was still the old world sort of, and if your song got on the radio, that's what Graham Nash is talking about, and became a staple. And then I mean, Gates of Loneliness made both my brother and I a small fortune. I mean, but that's it, and then a couple other singles, but that was really the tail end of that. It changed and the world as we knew it never came back, and it's a pity because it kind of means that music cannot really be anybody's or anybody's job unless you're super famous. And
Well, it's like back in the '60s when
yeah,
the Beatles were trying to get going. They spent a lot of time in small, sweaty clubs in Liverpool and then in Hamburg, and they spent literally playing 6 or 8 hours a night, 6 days a
yeah,
week, and that's how they got good at what they did.
yeah.
And kids today don't get that same experience. So I suppose the professionalism and learning their craft isn't the same now because they're sitting at a computer most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's very different. I think that and obviously people of even my vintage, we kind of had to reinvent ourselves because computers obviously are what we work on. We that's how we record. Might be real instruments if you're somebody like me, but you know you use a computer to record all that and to mix and so it's all changed. But of course, what's changed the most is we've spoken about this before, but quality control in the sense that it was a very elite crowd, even in the even right after the millennium, um, who who got signed and who ultimately got to make a record. Nowadays, anybody can make a record in their living room with the software that's available, and while that's a good idea, that's great that people can do that, but also means that then there's I don't want to swear, but there's a shitload of music out there in the cyber world, and that isn't really worth a whole lot. Because I'm not saying that that all of it is bad, but quite a bit of it is very unprofessional, and you've got YouTube filled with it, Spotify even, because there are aggregators, and if you pay them enough, they put your music out. As a result, the indie world has taken a beating. You got these indie stations playing as many indie songs as they can, but it doesn't do anybody any good to just play 10 artists a week and always different artists. What if you ever want to, if you want to help indie folks, then you choose a couple of artists and you play the heck out of their song. If you it that's how it was done with the large record companies and FM radio in the early days, and the concept hasn't changed. That's really the only thing that's going to work. And so, but right now we've got like a plethora of indie music of different level, and I think it's just gone crazy. The basic idea I love, but what it has turned into is this sort of circus where I listen to a lot of the songs and I realize that okay, so that's really out of tune, or it's not a professional mix, or you can hear that the vocalist really just hasn't sung enough to make a record, and then every once in a while you listen to something and you're thinking like, wow, I got to up my game. But I mean, those instances, they do happen, but they're far less frequent than me listening to something and thinking that, whoa, just we need numerous retakes. And there you go.
Well, and you play all the instruments and you play them live. You don't simulate any of them. And I
That's
think
right.
that makes really a hell of a difference when you're putting together a quality piece of material. You also write your own lyrics and you do it all, and you do really a very nice job of all of it, an amazing job in my mind. I love
Thanks.
what you do. And what you do, I think, is more timeless than a lot of things that are just going to show up and then disappear. In our world, that's kind of the way it's going, but your work is really quality work.
Well, that's that. Thanks for those kind words. I try my best. I think that you're right about the timelessness in the sense that I'm not referring to my own music necessarily, but it, whenever, regardless of the time that you exist in, if you follow trends, what's going to happen is that at some point, then in the near future, what you've done will sound outdated. Because trends come and go. It's always been the case, and whatever is the flavor of the month perhaps isn't something that an artist with a longer or rather long career should turn him or herself into. I think that a lot of the new music that I hear, every once in a while I hear a song that I like, and I kind of like the minimalist approach, but yet at the same time, I might use elements of it, little gimmicks that I hear. But I agree. If you go on trend completely, then you're going backwards, not forwards, and your song's going to sound dated in about 5 years. It's just the way it is.
I keep waiting for this because in the early 60s, you had people like Pat Boone and people, singers that they didn't really write, and they somebody would give them a song and they would play it, and a lot of it was very sugar coated and was very soft. And then in 64 the Beatles came along and changed everything. I keep
Yeah.
waiting for that to happen again. Do you think it's going to happen again because everybody's going to something brand new is going to hit, or are we stuck in in this
Well,
cyber world of mediocrity?
Well, if it's going to happen again, I hope it'll be Finnish invasion this time.
Yeah,
not the British,
exactly.
right? But and of course, I'd like to be leading it. But all right, but I don't think it's going to happen again. I think that one of the things that's whatever's going to happen, you and I can't even envision. It's a little bit like life before cell phones. If somebody had come to you in the 80s and told you that there's a time when you just kind of text and everybody can get a hold of you whenever they want to, you would have probably gotten quite upset. Like, do you think I'm down? It's never going to happen.
Right.
And because it was so far in the future, none of us really saw it coming. I think in terms of music, I was having this conversation with my brother, and he's more convinced that rock and roll will never make comeback as it was. He might be right, because if you listen to the rock and roll made these days, or rock, it's almost as produced as pop.
Yes.
And it's using the same gimmicks, it's using the same melodies, everything sounds the same except you have the guitars, and even those are kind of like, it's fixed with a computer. They sound very impersonal, or very unlike listening Keith Richards play. It's always, because it hasn't been fixed, his style and his touch, it's always going to be there, separating him from everyone else. But the way it's gone these days, I don't really, I hope that there will be the same type of musical revolution as there was in the early 90s, which is my era, with Oasis and all the bands that kind of put an end to, sugar-coated pop music. Or in the maybe 67, when Jimi Hendrix Experience came and everything started, happening or moving towards that direction. And, it's just like people like Pat Boone just sounded at that point ridiculous.
Yes.
Everybody was like, why did they ever even exist?
Yeah.
And then, of course, when that first wave went past, people started seeing value in the old stuff again. But yeah, I mean, one of the things that we share, or today shares with the times that you were referring to, is that we have a huge amount of artists who don't really write their own stuff. And even if they do, they need lots of help from the producers and musicians that help them create these records that are ultimately more products than products of their imagination. And I think that that's exactly where we are. I think modern day pop is very similar to what pop was before the Beatles. It's controlled by producers, controlled by radio station. It's all very generic. It's all almost one song. There are, now that I say this, people could point out that what about this, and then I'd say, yeah, that's a great song. It doesn't sound like any, but 90% of it is. And I'm not a great fan of what's happening, obviously. And I'm not going to say that it's all junk, because it isn't. But I also do wish that there will be a change. I keep praying for that Finnish invasion, but I don't think it's going to happen,
Well, we're going
man.
to start that Finnish invasion today because I want to. Can I play Doormat?
Yeah, it sounds great, man.
Now this is a song that was #1 on iTunes, and I've actually got 3 songs. I'm not going to keep you for the whole time. I'll play the other 2 after we say goodbye, so that people can hear it, but you can go watch a horror movie.
Hey, sounds good. All right.
Which would be good for you. But I wanted to get your take on Doormat before I play it. What's it about?
Well, it's very old school blues tune, and I wrote it because I realized, as I was listening to the Beatles for the 100th time, or millionth
Thousands,
time,
maybe.
yeah, right, thousands, yeah. That there's a song on Rubber Soul called "Run for Your Life." I'd
Paul
rather
McCartney
see
wrote
it. Right. I'd rather see you dead, little girl, than to be with another man. Right. It's very threatening lyric. And it's very violent lyric. As Lennon wrote a lot of those. For instance, "You Can't Do That."
Yeah.
Which is where the "Leaving You Flat" line comes from. And I realized that because I had listened to a lot of the old blues records, my dad's blues records that I've downloaded, Robert Johnson, Muddy Water, and of course the type of lyric, or the type of song that Lennon was writing with "Run for Your Life." That's where it comes from. It comes from all those old blues lyrics, which basically is, "If you cheat on me, I'll kill you." Which was, I suppose, okay. You think about that nowadays on the radio.
You can't do that
You can't do
anymore.
it, because everything has to be like, "I like your body, I like your sex, I like your dance, and booty, booty, booty," and whatever. And it's sugar coated, and it's like everybody's wearing flash clothes, and it's just, it's like Dynasty
Yeah.
music
It's
version of
very
Dallas and
gimmicky.
Dynasty. Yeah.
Very
But
gimmicky.
but anyway, that's where Doormat came from. And so I started playing this acoustic riff, and I started thinking of Robert Johnson and those Lennon songs, and Carlos Santana, maybe a little bit, and Black Magic Woman, and I wanted to write a chorus that's kind of nasty sounding, that it has the blues twang in it, and wrote many different versions, and then listened back to them a couple of weeks after, and the chorus that you hear now on Doormat was clear that was it, that was the winner. But I wanted to write the lyrics pretty much in the style of Robert Johnson and all those old blues songs. You got the red-eyed demon there, and somebody going to the holy man asking about the woman who says that she's from below. Don't mess with her. She'll kill you. Demons, danger. Rattlesnake tail, and just all of it. I just wanted to put all of it there because it's one way of looking at relationships.
Mhm.
Nowadays, when everything has to be little pink houses and La La Land, it's you. And every once in a while, if I'm walking past a church, you see a young couple getting married, and then I think about that hopefully they'll be at least a little bit happy, because going back to what Paul McCartney said once in an interview, when he was asked, I don't remember what show he was on, I'm gonna guess, he was asked, what is the secret to long marriage? And of course he was married to Linda for like 2,000 years, and
Yep.
before she passed away. It's so sad, by the way, incredibly sad. But McCartney's answer was, what's the secret to long marriage? His answer was, don't get divorced. I mean, and I think that's brilliant. That's brilliant, because I think, that's it. I think that if you're married for 40 years, like some people are, or 50 years, like my parents were, I think there are moments when you just want to walk out, and if there aren't, then one of you is lying. And in many ways, I think, there has to be. It, it,
There is, and when referencing a interview that Linda did, she said we have arguments, we have rows all the time, and but at the end of the day, we love each other, and
that's it. Yeah.
she's my girl, and he said once,
Yeah.
and and they had one of the longest marriages in music.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was like 29 years or something when she passed.
Incredible. Yeah. It's just, awesome. But
It's
that's,
that just as a thought. Do you suppose that he was loyal to her because he'd had so many women in his life that he was done messing around with the girls that were dropping from the ceiling when he was, on tour with the Beatles and all that kind of stuff? Do you think his experience just made it so that he wanted to stay at home and have kids, and he had sowed all the wild oats he wanted to sow?
that's the explanation he gives on multiple occasions. I remember the line from one interview where he said that he realized, or he was very aware of the fact that you can't be a playboy all your life, and that's almost a direct quote. And I think that's exactly it. And also, I think if you meet someone that you truly connect with, that is very rare. I think if we randomly pulled 20 couples here, just I don't know where we find them, but if we had them here, regardless of the state of their marriage or how they truly feel about each other, everybody would say that they have a great connection. I would like to challenge that. I don't think people usually do. You see these old couples and you realize that they don't necessarily even know each other that well. Not everybody has deep conversations. Not everybody is able to reflect on themselves or the other person. And I think, it may be perhaps, and I'm guessing, they had the rarest of things, the actual true connection.
And there is a level of. I was married for 24 years, and we never had a really deep connection of. She could tell what I was thinking, and I could tell what she was thinking, and we were a team, and we were in this together to the end, regardless. It wasn't like that. It was superficial, and most of us, I think, are kind of very superficial in that way. Is that we're scared of being hurt, or we weren't brought up that way, and our parents weren't that way, or whatever the reason is, and so when you just have a superficial relationship, you don't get deep enough to form a deep seated love for somebody.
Oh yeah, and I mean, if it true, and how true, and if you don't develop that, you truly don't get to know the other person. And how can you trust somebody you don't know? I mean, these are huge questions. I think that when you're in your early 20s is something that you don't even really necessarily think about. But love is a long road, and if you're lucky, life is very long. And I think at some point, if let's just go for the easiest explanation or the easiest situation where one of you wants to talk and get to know the other person and discuss everything, the bad stuff and the good stuff, and just the relationship, and the other one just isn't capable of doing that for whatever reason. That doesn't mean that you have two people out of which one is terrible and the other one isn't. It just means that there's no compatibility. And think if that doesn't exist, that chemistry and compatibility, then where do you go?
And it's really, really, really easy to just kind of drift apart, even though you're in the same house. And
you're totally alone. True. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have nowhere to go, and that's when some entity comes from outside and is a really hot thing, or somebody that he's old hat. I want something, and that's where the affairs come from, and that's
right.
and that cripples the marriage because you start looking outside of the marriage.
Yeah, and I don't think it's I think it was Ringo Starr who said in one interview that it isn't that you wake up one morning and decide that I'm going to look for it outside the marriage. It's just that I think that you kind of pine away and wither away, or the love withers away for a long time, and then something comes along and kind of wakes you up and reminds you of how you should be feeling. the sad thing, of course, is that a lot of people who go for these, let's call them band-aids, what's going to happen is that they don't just wreck their marriage, but they also realize within a couple of months that this new person was just sort of worse than the old one, really. But you know, desperate, you know, when people get desperate, they do desperate and let's not say stupid things, but silly things that they regret. And dude, we've all been there at some point in our lives, and I wish I had always been able to think clearly when that rough patch hit, or when I was in the middle of it, or whatever, when it was happening. But obviously I haven't. Doormat in itself isn't about that. It's about meeting somebody who's just two-timing you is no good, and you kind of have been hooked on the relationship because sex is great, but really you wake up every morning hating yourself and the world. And until one morning you decide that I'm going to drop that, you know, beep, you know, I just can't say the word, right? But and that's what Doormat is about, that, you know, you end up hating somebody so much that you don't just want to leave them, you want to leave them flat and make them your doormat, you know. That it isn't enough anymore to just leave, because leaving without hurting the other person means you've completely lost. You've lost anyway. But that's what the old blues standards were really about. That's what Lennon sang about, definitely what Jagger sang about. And I just thought it was time for me to sit down and write one of those.
And it went to number one. So apparently there's a whole bunch of pain out there that we all share.
Oh my God, what a way of thinking about it. But yeah, I guess, you know, yeah, but it's very, you know, you put two people together in the room and you keep them there for long enough, there's a fight, and then, you know, I just do the math, you know, that's what marriages really are. Mm-hmm. You know, it's, but then again, you know, the best of, you know, somebody said that if you can be with someone and fight constructively, even if it's every day, it's a great marriage. And I think this is what, you know, if there are younger folks listening to this, somebody who's getting ready to get married, that's what it's about. It's about how you fight. It's good to fight, but if it's not getting you anywhere, then that's the bad fight. That, you know, you've got 10 years and you're still on the same topic. You know, it's like, you know, what happened, you know.
It ceases to be any fun.
It totally does.
So this is Tommi Tikka, and the name of the song is Doormat. You'll enjoy this thoroughly, and we'll be right back after this song.
I can see for miles, I know what you do when I'm not around. There's magic in my eyes, I ain't no fool, I ain't no clown. I heard from a friend, who heard from a friend, you sleep around. There's just one thing left to do before I skip town. Before I skip town, I will bring you down. I'm gonna leave you flat. I will break your heart and make you my doormat. I used to think you're the one, someone to hold, someone to love. Now I know it's a lie. Say
There's a reason why that song went to number one. That is a great tune, Tommy.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate that.
It really is. It really is. And you know, it's so true. It's like, that's a bitch from hell.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And of course, you know, that's the bad side of songwriting, that you always get the one-sided view. But I'm sure the bitch from hell would feel the same way about the singer, you know. So,
and but speaking of which, I just wanted to compliment you. You have got a great voice. What is your range? Have you ever looked at that?
It's still pretty. I think it's 3 octaves. I can sing low and I can sing high, and for the time being, it's always, I've had a huge range. It's one of the things where I started singing early and started practicing harmonies, and I think that from that it came that you can have, because even in Doormat you have 3 octaves. You have it's all there. It's just silence, so that it brings. It's not silence, but it's kind of down in the mix. Just that's why you have it so huge. You got the harmonies there as well, but it's I sing it very low. I sing it where you hear me singing it, and then there's, you know, an octave higher there, and in between everything there you have the harmonies. And so it's rather huge. I didn't do a very good job explaining it, but you know, it's
no, you did. No, you did. And ladies and gentlemen, every instrument is real. Every instrument was played by Tommy, and all the vocals were done by Tommy, and the production and the whole thing. And you are an extraordinarily talented fella. And I really hope that the wave from Finland comes soon.
Well, yeah, the Finnish invasion. That's what we're working on. Yeah, it's mostly me. I got to say though that my producer Janne Saksa helped with the mix, and I think he plays bass on that track. I had a bass track there, but he said that, do you mind if I give it a go? And I said that, can you play better than I? And he said, yeah. So I thought, okay, you know, just do it. I started laughing, and he does a fantastic job. So he's on bass there, and just, you know, for fairness sake, Michael Stover did a tremendous job being the executive producer on not just Doormat but the entire new album. Those songs went back and forth, and while Michael wasn't playing anything, I ultimately would then arrange and play all the instruments. And even if Janne did play something, he played the same notes, and at least 99% of the same notes, and just had a different feel. And but that's what Michael did. He on this particular track, he, for instance, said that, you know, why don't you have a Carlos Santana type of solo, that you bring in the congas and the bongos, and then he had the idea of the rattlesnake shake there, and so he would bring in a lot of great ideas, or if he felt that the second verse was sort of it needed something more, like there's an ad-lib guitar and stuff, and even clavier and that sort of thing. So he in reality, yeah, it's all me, but the creative input from Michael and Janne was invaluable, to be honest with you.
Now, this is September 25th, 2021. What's the name of the album that dropped today?
This is My Happy Face is the name of the album. And it's, of course, a very grim album, and hence the title. You know, the story of the album is actually rather odd. I sadly lost my dad a couple of years ago, and and then I had this weirdest dream about 6 months after he had passed, where I got up in the middle of the night to fetch or get a glass of water from the kitchen, and I was obviously dreaming because my dad was sitting on the couch. We have a rather large downstairs, which you can see into the living room. If you walk from our bedroom to the kitchen, and he was sitting there and just sort of signaled me to come over, and we were chatting, and it was a wonderful feeling, and I got closure on a lot of the things that were left unsaid and done. I think I needed that dream in that way. But then when it was time to, you know, I told my dad that I got to go to bed, that, you know, I loved hanging out with you, but I got to wake up in a couple of hours. And he said, yeah, sure, man. It was great seeing you. And we hugged, and he was smoking he was smoking a cigarette, and we, it was weird because that was one of the things that we always fought about. I hate it. I didn't want any cigarettes around as a kid, the smoke and everything. I hated that, and that was sort of a constant quarrel between us. And of course, lo and behold, in the dream, that's exactly what he was doing. And when he hugged me, he accidentally burnt my neck with his cigarette in the dream. And he apologized profusely. And I said that, look, dude, I don't really care, that I got to spend time with you, and that's all that matters. That come back again. And he said, I will. I haven't seen him in a dream since. But then when I woke up in the morning and I went to shave, I noticed a red spot right here that looked exactly as if a cigarette had burnt me on the neck. And it was the weirdest moment of my entire life. I even woke up my wife and I said that, look, what does this look like to you? And she said, yeah, it looks like a cigarette burn. And I said, yeah, see, this is the strange thing, because I had this dream. And she doesn't believe in any of that stuff. She's like, you kind of probably pinched yourself, which is most likely the case, obviously. But at that point, then I got interested in life after death and all these occurrences. And there was a show on Netflix that I started watching. It's just a couple of weeks after this incident. And so that kind of inspired the whole album, really, that dream and that show. And that's how the album came about. So I contacted Michael and I said, what if I write a sequence of songs that the whole album starts with the suicide of the protagonist? The first song is called Bullet in the Head, and the last song is called Garden of Judas, and that's where the guy ends up having committed suicide. And in between those two tracks are all these events that flash before his eyes before it kind of everything goes black. And so it's a grim album in a way, but that's just one level of it. In reality, it's celebrating that guy's life.
I believe firmly that your dream was more than a dream.
Yeah, me too.
And that your dad came to see you because he knew you needed closure. He really wanted to touch lives with you again, and he's with you all the time now.
Yeah,
you may not have a dream of him, but he is there. He's there to take care of you, and he's very interested in you, the family, all the major events that happen, and all that kind of stuff. I really honestly believe that. And I will actually, no, let me put it another way. I know that to be true.
Yeah. Thanks, man. That's how I feel too. It was just too real for not to have happen. And I really did need closure. There were issues that were sort of killing me, to put it bluntly. And as a result of the dream, as strange as it sounds, I was able to let things go.
No question about it. And that's the entire intent, because when he got to the other side and he had a time to reflect on the things that happened with your relationship and how a lot of things were unresolved, he felt the need to be able to come to you and to work it out. And I really think that the cigarette burn was his way of saying, it wasn't a dream.
Yeah,
it was real.
Yeah, that's what I think too. And the funny part is that, I grew up in the States, and my dad was very Finnish, and it was difficult at some point because Finns are kind of like, they're hard to read. If you're from the Anglo-Saxon culture, it looks like they're always in a bad mood, and that they're not, but to somebody like me, and so I would always go to my dad when he was and say that, like, are you in a bad mood? And he used to say, like, this is my happy face. And so, and I'm like, well, you could have fooled me there, Dad, because he'd be like, and so, and it was just actually my wife's idea to, why not call the album that? And she designed the cover, which is me dressed up as a clown. And, of course, Doormat music video has me dressed up as a woman. Which was incredible, because it was sort of her idea was that we make a music video which is a Greek play, and in those Greek plays, men played all the parts, even the
Right.
parts of women, and because women weren't allowed on stage then. And so that's what I do. You know, it's like two female characters, and that's me dressed up as a woman.
That's
It was great fun.
that's a wonderful album. And the name of the album again is
This Is My Happy Face.
go pick it up. Where's the best place they can go to get it? And so that you actually, I don't know, get paid for it.
Well, I think Bandcamp is probably the best one if somebody wants to make sure that I eat. Just kidding. Just kidding. But no, the reason why Bandcamp is the best place to go is that if you do pay for the album and download it, you get a little extra, which is the booklet, the digital booklet that you can download along with the music, and it's got an essay explaining the album, telling the story of my dream, as well as multiple different photos of different stages of me becoming clown. My wife had this idea that we'll take a picture of me as is, and then I have a little bit makeup on my face on the next picture, a little bit more, and then at the end I'm a full-blown clown. So you get that, and then there are the lyrics, and it's quite a nice booklet, to be honest with you.
I think that's awesome. Would you come on and talk about that album again and your experience with that dream? And we could do that on KKNW, because that would be awesome to talk about that, because I think that happens to all of us, and a lot of us just say, "Nah, it's a fucking dream," and it has nothing to do with anything. But they're trying. They don't have a body anymore, but they're trying to get through to us in a meaningful way.
Yeah. Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, sounds great. Count me in, man.
You betcha. And you know what? I'm willing to bet that the kids are done with the pizza now, and that they're ready to see you. The 4-year-old's got to go to bed, and they're ready to see you to watch the movie. So
I'm gonna go downstairs, make sure all the doors and windows are locked, and then we're gonna watch horror.
Sounds like a great idea. Tommi Tikka, and the name of the song that we just played is called Doormat. The name of the album again is
This Is My Happy Face.
This Is My Happy Face. Go get the album. I think it's dynamic. It's gonna be great fun. And stay with me, because there's a couple of songs that from the first interviews that we did with Tommi that I'm gonna play for you. But I'm gonna let Tommi go because he's got 6 kids downstairs. By the way, I had to ask you before you go, how many gallons of milk do you buy a week?
A lot, man. But luckily, you know, they don't drink milk that much, but just you know, to give you an idea of how many pizzas I made today. Well, the oldest one is gone now because he's staying at my aunt's house, actually. I did call my aunt, make sure that he was actually there. You know, I just like but anyway, I usually, there's 6 kids and there's my wife and I, and when I make pizzas, that's about, I don't know, 14 pizzas.
Oh, jeez.
And my wife and I share one.
Yep.
So the kids come and they eat 13 pizzas. So this is why you need to go to Bandcamp and download the album. I gotta stop kidding, man. You know.
No, you deserve to get. You honestly, I believe wholeheartedly that you deserve to get paid for what you do, and what you do is dynamic.
It'd be nice one day, perhaps. Yeah.
Our guest has been Tommi Tikka. He and go get the album. Go look at his music. Do you have a website? You have a website too, right?
Yeah, www.tomtikka.com.
And that's
3 W's there, yeah. But everybody else, yeah.
And that's Tikka is Tikka.
Like the Indian curry paste.
Exactly.
There's a story with that too. I remember once going to an Indian restaurant, and I used my credit card to pay, and they noticed that my last name was Tikka. You know, and I said that, yeah, that's right. I'm the spice god. But anyway,
it's always a pleasure talking to you. You're an amazing man, and you got a great heart, and I really appreciate the man that you are.
Likewise, man. I'm looking forward to the next chat.
Yes, it'll be great fun. So Tommi Tikka has been our guest, and he's gonna go. Did you finish your pizza?
I'm gonna take the pizza with me to the TV room, and while I watch the slasher movie, I'll eat the pizza.
Very nice. Again, Tommi Tikka has been our guest, and thank you so much, sir. And this is probably coming up is probably my favorite song, followed by my next favorite song, which is Hearts on Fire, and then Turn Back Time. Unfortunately, Turn Back Time we can't play on AM radio because he says the S word in it. But other than that, we're good. We're good to go. So, Tommi, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
You have yourself a great Saturday night.
You too. See you, man.
Take care.
Cheers.
Sat down and we swore we won't get old. Stephen married money, empty lost his head. Jake's heart has turned cold, and I've been bought and sold. Yeah, my heart's on fire, and my blood boils hot. I am all desire. I will never stop. I'll shout it from rooftops. Did I mention Ken hates his wife, but just in secrecy? Bob got fired and Art's in jail. Matt's in therapy. It all sounds just like me. Yeah, my heart's on fire, and my blood boils hot. I am all desire. I will never stop. I'll shout it from rooftops. I'm alive. My life has gone, it seems, far from the street of dreams. Yet I'm hanging Do you remember when we all sat down and we swore we won't get old? Stephen married money and he lost his head. Yeah, my heart's on fire, and my blood boils hot. I am all desire. I will never stop. Yeah, my heart's on fire, and my blood boils hot. I am all desire. I will never stop. I'll shout it from rooftops. Remember when we all sat down? I allow myself to weep after you have gone to sleep. After I talk in the kids, I fall into thousand bits, knowing you don't give a shit. Wish I could turn back the time. Wish I'd never made you mine. So many things I've realized just now. Wish I could turn back the time. If I miss most everything. If I could whitewash my mind, I'd erase it all outright, so that I can sleep at night. Wish I could turn back the time. I wish I never made you mine. So many things I realized just now. Wish I could turn back the time. I kiss my 3-year-old goodnight with love. Stay right by his side. Wish I could stay right by his side. No, 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 yeah, 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 yeah. Wish I could stay right by his side. I see a man all dressed in black at a lonely cul-de-sac, loading up a U-Haul van, saying goodbye to his clan. Someday they'll understand. Wish I could turn back the time. Wish I'd never made you mine. So many things I realized just now. Wish I could turn back the time. Wish I could turn back the time. Wish I could turn back the time.
And that is Tommi Tikka, and he's from Finland. He's a great singer-songwriter and a really nice guy, and he takes care of 6 kids. I want to thank everybody for joining me today on my Independence Report. I want to also alert you to the fact that we've got another YouTube channel and another podcast that is now going to be called Positive Talk Radio. It's going to be mirror the show that I'm going to do on KKNW 1150 AM, Mondays at 9 a.m. Pacific and Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific. And I hope that you can stream that live as well from anywhere in the world. I hope that you'll go there and do that. And again, I'd like to thank everybody for being here on my Independence Report. And it's Saturday here. I hope you'll have a great day, everybody.
Hey, and thanks for listening to this episode all the way to the end. Hey, pretty cool. Hey, don't forget to follow us so you can receive regular updates and new posts. And remember, take care of each other because each other's all we got. See you next time on My Independence Report.